This is Daishin Ju, and I'm Sarah Craig. We're here today on June 5th, 2012, in the Child Center of Asian Studies conference room on the Rice University campus to interview Nancy Saibara Naritomi for the Houston Asian American Archive Oral History Interview Project. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm glad I'm here. I'm happy. I made it.
So we're going to start the interview with you introducing about your family and your childhood. So could you tell us about your family and how they came to the United States from Japan?
Oh, okay. My great-grandfather made the decision to come to Texas. He was already in Connecticut. He was a senator in the Japanese government and ran on independent. And after that, he was president of a Christian university in Kyoto. And then he became Christian and he decided to learn theology, so he moved to Connecticut to a university. But at that time he was in his 40s and it's very challenging doing university work of theology at that age to learn English. So he kind of gave up and decided to go back to Japan. Before he left for Japan, Chamber of Commerce of Houston, people approached him and said, please, we have trouble with getting our rice industry going up because we have hurricanes, and you Japanese, you have lots of typhoons, which is similar, but you produce lots of rice. So could you please come to Texas and bring your friends and come and grow rice? So great-grandfather decided and made a decision, and he sent a letter to his wife, and he was hoping she would agree, so he was waiting. I read the diary, so somebody translated it for me because it was in Japanese. And so she sold everything, and she brought his parents, so 1, 2, 3, and my grandfather had just graduated high school, and he had gotten passed the examination for Rikyo University, which is St. Paul's University. It's a Christian university. And he was all ready to, he already bought the uniform, and he was ready to go in and become a ship engineer. But he got the letter, he's going to come and become a rice farmer in Texas. So at that generation said, yes, yes. Never said, no, Dad, I disagree with this. They didn't do that at that time, so he came, and he thought it was my grandfather said he didn't think much of the idea. Anyway, they came, worship, and and some of my great-grandfather's cousins also came, and they took, from the West Coast, they took a train to Houston. And every time it stopped, and not every time, but when they were hungry, they'd take turns. One would run out and buy bologna and crackers and get back on the train. So by the time they got to Houston, they were pretty constipated, and because that's not really good. They didn't have good food at that time in the train station. And the railroad company was very eager to help the Japanese rice farmers. So the railroad, what was his name? I can't remember. Well, the railroad people helped them select places to grow rice and make their farms. And the Chamber of Commerce, of course, was very happy. They were very much welcomed. And so in Webster, Texas, which is next to NASA Space Center, there was a community of Japanese at that time. 1903 is when my grandfather came. So 1904 to Houston, 1903 to Connecticut. So around 1904, little by little, more and more immigrants were coming. Very interesting, the Kobayashi family, the Kagawa family. I think Mrs. Kagawa was 98 or 99 when she passed away. She had 12 children. They did rice farming, and then the Kobayashi family, she lived to 102, 103, and Ricky, I believe, was a professor here at Rice. Kobayashi. Anyway, I can't remember what they. Anyway, there were many families. Okay, then they didn't have enough money to buy the land, so they rented the land. So they they bought some land, but for starting the farming, they borrowed money. So half paid in advance, and after the harvest, they would pay the other half. So that was the first year. That was how they did it. Because great-grandfather was a lawyer, and but self-trained. There was no law school at that time. And now being a senator in Japan at that time was zero payment. It's volunteer, like George Washington and the Jefferson, those people, they didn't get paid. Maybe it should return that way. Anyway, and medical insurance they have now, and it should be. Everybody should have medical coverage. Okay. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's see. What labor? Okay. So grandfather had to learn English, and he came, and he did not have. He had a little bit of English because he went to junior high school at St. Paul's in Tokyo, and he went to high school there. And his wife, who later came, as a kind of with her parents, and a trip to visit. It was supposed to be just 1 week, and it turned out, well, finally on the last day, or it was 2 weeks, I can't remember, grandfather took her for a horse and buggy ride on the area that was now NASA Space Center, because that was Cyber Farm. They had a nursery business there, but they sold it later on. So on the last day he proposed, and so her parents left for Japan without her, and all those dishes and kimonos, all the things she brought, and kotos she brought, and musical instruments, she was prepared to come and get married, I think, because, and her family was Christian too, which is kind of rare in Japan at that time, because they had in the 16th century, they had it was taboo to be Christian, so they killed lots of Christians, and so they would go and take a cross or a picture of Jesus and say, step on it, and the people didn't step on it, they got killed immediately. So there was, because they heard from Portuguese sailors, the history of the Western world is first the priest comes in, and then the soldiers come in, and then you're a slave. And so that's why they started killing Christians. So Japanese Christians had to become secret Christians, and my grandmother and my grandfather both raised as Christians, and they learned English from missionaries in Japan in the schools they went to, and so they spoke to their kids, my father and my uncles and my aunt, in English. So my father and my uncles and aunt are very few unusual example of Japanese immigrants who don't speak Japanese. They. Yeah, so, and I remember a story, my aunt coming home from Webster, either elementary or junior high, and she heard her mother holding Uncle Eddie by the ear and saying, "Konnichiwa," which means good afternoon. "Konnichiwa." And she was just yelling repeatedly, and he was going, So there was a little trouble. Well, anyway. But my grandfather did have to learn Spanish because the workers were Spanish, and he had to learn in English too. So the first year, I don't know how many months, what he did was he took the train to Ball High School in Galveston, and he had a little upstairs apartment, and he went to high school for 1 year. So he was already 1 year ahead of all the other kids, and when the math teacher needed a substitute teacher, then my grandfather, who was good in math, or he liked math, he wanted to be a ship engineer. Well, he would teach the class. So that's why he did that, so he could learn English, you see. But the other classes, well, that helped him English. Okay, anyway, so for 1 year he did Ball High School. And I saw pictures of the farm. They produced lots of rice, and they had brought rice with them on the ship, okay? And this rice was called Shinriki, power of God. Okay, I think that's right. Anyway, and so he gave that part of the rice to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M, they were trying to breed a hybrid that would be tougher against the harsh conditions here, and so they came and they made a Blue Rose, which Blue Rose is what I was raised on. Blue Rose is rice that was stronger against disease and harsh conditions, and it was all through my elementary, junior high. I don't think I ate any other kind of rice than Blue Rose, but it's not. I don't see it anymore on the stores. But anyway, that's one of the main purpose. My great grandfather. The reason why he decided to come to Texas was another reason. He believed there was going to be a population explosion in Japan, and there would be no food to eat. And so he decided he's going to come and his family help the Texas rice industry. At the same time, try to make surplus food that he could send back to Japan in case they were going to be starving. All right, and he went around Manchuria and Philippines and Korea and Japan, all around Japan, asking immigrants, asking people, be an immigrant, go to other countries, and they did. They did go. His cousins, they went, make lots of food and send it back to Japan when Japan is going to have an explosion. I need food. Well, great-grandfather died in 1939 at the beginning of World War II, and then his big dream was crushed because at the end of World War II, we had grandfather had a bumper crop, lots of rice, and he was all ready to send it to Japan, this surplus. And the Japanese government said, stop, do not do it, because then you will make the price of rice in Japan drop, and the Japanese rice farmers will starve. And just because of a free... Anyway, I don't really know to what extent that really would have happened, but it was a big disappointment for my grandfather because that was the big dream, That's why the family came. So they couldn't do this. All he could do was put boxes and some food and canned things and send to his own relatives or people he knew, but he could not send rice. The government stopped it. And the government did the same thing to his cousins who were in they were in the Philippines, and they had lots and lots of eggplant, and they wanted to send it to Japan, surplus, and Japanese government would not do this, so politics got in the way.
So what was your grandfather's name? I'm sorry.
Grandfather, which one? Grandfather's name is Kiyoaki Saibar, and he's the one that wanted to be a ship engineer, but he became a Texas rice farmer. And my great-grandfather was Seito, Seito, and he was the congressman, self-made lawyer, and decided to bring the whole family to Texas.
So this was a family business, right?
Yes, family farm, yes.
So your great-grandfather started it, and then your grandfather
carried
it, and then what about your parents?
Oh, my parents. Okay, my father, along with his brothers, Uncle Robert and Uncle Ed, they worked on the rice farm. And Uncle Robert, he left he didn't work, I don't know how long Uncle Robert went into Texas A&M for engineering, and he was in the cadet corps in World War II in Germany. So he's very short, and all these other guys, but he was ahead of them. He told me they were in somewhere in Germany, and they were fighting, and they went into a factory to clear it out, make sure there's no Germans in there, and then he noticed the people under him, the men under, were stepping on all of these Leica cameras, and he said, "Hey, don't do that. Those are cameras." He said, "Oh, back home I got one of these, accordion type cameras, very, very old fashioned, on a big tripod." He said, "I got one of these. These are," He said, "Well," my uncle said to that soldier, "with one of those Leica cameras, you sell it, you can buy 10 of those accordion cameras." And so then they were fighting, and then my uncle noticed, "Oh, where's everybody? Where's everybody?" So he started looking for his men, and some of them were in the Leica factory, bagging all those cameras and stealing them. I don't know why I'm telling this story. Anyway, and he said it repeatedly happened. You have to go back in the factory and catch them because they didn't know. Yeah. My uncle told me it was the first serious conversation with my uncle. Otherwise, it was all happy and gay things. But I was 15 years old. It was the graduation of my cousin Paul at Texas A&M, and we were sitting in the lobby waiting on my aunt and my cousin to come join us, and he was looking at the newspaper, and it was the My Lai massacre in Vietnam was on the front page. And he put down the newspaper. He said, this My Lai thing. And then he said, then he started saying in Europe, when they'd be walking along the road, he said, with tanks and all kind of people, soldiers, civilians would come and join them and walk together with them side by side. Maybe they thought they had safety, but then every once in a while, they would hear an order like, I don't know what, some kind of shout, and then all the soldiers would run on the left and jump off the road, and a plane would come by and mow down all those civilians, those women and children. And I said, "Uncle, that's murder." he said, Nancy, and he had his hands up. He said, that's what war is. And I said, that's murder. And then my aunt suddenly appeared, and she was upset because we were late for the ceremony. And she said, Robert, I told you to meet at certain time. And then she kept marching by. She didn't stop. She went going to the place we were supposed to be. And then my uncle leaned over just when my aunt was crossing in front of me, and he said, your Aunt Rhoda is wearing a wig. And I just froze. and my uncle had a lot of sense of humor. He picked that timing to tell me. But anyway, that's the first time I heard something serious about war from my uncle. Okay, well, we diversed.
Okay.
Anyway.
So your parents worked at the farm.
No, my father did.
Just your father?
Yes, and my Uncle Ed, yeah. And my Uncle Robert opened up a television repair in the shop,
So did you grow up on a farm?
No, I was born in Pasadena, Texas.
Okay.
And Dad, let's see, Dad married my mother. He met my mother through a friend in the Rio Grande Valley, and this was a small community of Japanese in the Rio Grande Valley, and they had a club, and it was called Valley High-Lows. And in Houston, we had a club. It was called the Lone Star Club, and those two clubs dispersed. But they were in my childhood. They were meeting, for holidays or for Easter egg hunt or. Socializing, okay.
Do you know when they dispersed?
Maybe in the 70s or 60s. I don't know when they did. Everybody got too tired, too old, and too busy, I guess. So my father met her at there. Let's see, and about labor. Okay, my father was working for my uncle for a while, and then he opened up his own welding business. He was a welder. He liked to work with his hands, and he liked to fly, and he liked to fish. I mean, he had so many hobbies. My father loved to do all kind of things, and he worked for a short time for Brown and Root in Nassau. And I say this because of a very interesting experience that just influenced me for the rest of my life. He was fired, and before he was fired, it was like this. The new supervisor came in, a very young one, and went up to the coffee kitty and emptied it out and put it in his pockets. So my father says, "Hey, don't do that. That's not right." And then he was told he doesn't need to come to work anymore. He needs time to find a new job. And his contract will not be renewed. So he doesn't need to come back to work at all. He'll be paid for 2 months until he can find a new job. So I was in junior high school. It was my first year, sixth grader. I was sixth grader. So I didn't know what to put on the form. Where is my father working? So I asked the teacher, "Can I call my parents? I don't know what to do here." And so she said, "Oh, children, you don't know where your parents are working. You should know that, So anyway, Dad said, "Oh, go ahead, put Brown and Root because they're still paying me for 2 months." So I remember Mother would look, watch Daddy come home, and Daddy would say, "No, nothing today," because he was looking for work, Okay, so and I had no idea that a job had a relationship to the food on the table. I had no idea there was some kind of relationship. Very naive. Okay, so anyway, Dad was fired for a silly thing like that, and then also what other thing? Oh yeah, somebody stole my father's barbecue pit that he had welded together out of scrap metal, and then it was found by some teeny tiny little Texas town, and they. The sheriff called him and said, "Hey, come pick it up." So when he went to pick it up, he was given a big storage fee. They had chained it to a fence outside, and it was anyway, it wasn't covered or anything, and they were charging him an enormous amount. And I forgot what it was. So he said, "This sheriff wants." I said, "This is not fair, Daddy. This is your property, and they're charging you an enormous amount of storage fee. This is wrong." And he said, "Can you come with me to face this sheriff?" And I said, Oh, this time, no, because I was pregnant at that time. I don't know whether my first or my second baby. I think it was my second. And I said, I'm just too tired to do this. But tell them you will call Marvin Zindler. And Marvin Zindler was a famous, I think it was Channel 11, a sort of a consumer advocate. He passed away. He was the same age as my father. In fact, they had a class together at Sam Houston State. That was before Marvin did all the face surgery and changed his nose. And but anyway, Marvin Zindler was a wonderful person. He died 2007 or 8. I can't remember. Yeah.
Okay, so is the family business still going on?
Oh no! That stopped in 1968 or maybe earlier. My grandfather retired from the rice industry, and 3 months later he had a stroke. Drove himself to John Seeley Hospital in Galveston because that was near Webster where they were living. And then the doctor said, "Well, take it easy." And then he had a stroke 2 weeks later, and that was really strong when he had aphasia, can't understand but can't speak. Okay, and a little bit of dementia too. So I became sort of like a babysitter sometimes for my grandfather. It was the reverse when I was growing up, changed position. And his wife, third wife, and she married him when I was like at 2 or 3 years old. So we were very close. Anyway, she was doing community things like flower arranging, and she would go take all kind of kimonos and go to a school and dress up the kids in kimono and teach them a little, and take some rice crackers or something, that kind of thing. She would come to my schools too and do that. And about labor, my father was working for my uncle, and then he opened his own welding business. And then my uncle Eddie, he was working for the farm until it finished. And then I think he went to work Brown and Root, which is nearby, and had a job there too. My father was fired a second time, but that was a little different. The man who hired him, there were 2 brothers that owned an industry, welding industry, Hahn and Clay, I think it was called. And one of them died, and the one who died was the one who hired my father. And the other one said, well, we don't have any space we need to cut down on employment. So Dad lost his job again, second time. And then he opened his own welding business. So I remember that, because we had eggs for breakfast and then an egg sandwich for lunch and then eggs for dinner. And I remember that was going on for 2 weeks, and I said to my mother, can we have something different than eggs? And then my mother hit me under the table with and my father was showing a very unhappy face. And then I remember I was so dumb, I didn't realize what was happening, when he didn't have a job. And then I remember one time my grandfather and grandmother, she used to come, we would either go visit them or they would come visit us on the weekends. And so my grandmother liked the stores in Houston and Pasadena because Webster was teeny tiny, just one little grocery store. That's a very small one. So she liked all the stores, so she would come. And one time, usually the way it would be, they would come, and then Grandpa and I and my father would be, talking, and then grandmother and my mother would take her shopping because grandmother did not drive, and then they'd come back, and then we'd have lunch, and then they would go home. That's the usual way. But one time I remember she came with all kind of groceries and was putting stuffed groceries into the rice box, and then when we came time to go to say goodbye, my grandfather and my father had a very serious expression on the face, and my grandmother and my mother were talking, and we were saying goodbye as they're about to leave. And I remember, well, this is strange. Dad and grandfather, such serious expression on their face. And this is the time when my father was looking for a job, and he didn't have any. and grandmother and grandfather had brought food. I said, you always come and you buy things and you go. You never come and bring things and put in the refrigerator. And I said, why is this? And my grandma said, well, sometimes something different, And so I didn't realize they were bringing groceries for us, So when it came time to say goodbye, my father said, very serious expression, Dad, Pop, he said, I'll pay you back. And he said, and my grandfather said, Pop. My grandfather said, Warren, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And so, and I thought, this is strange. What is this conversation? But later on, I realized what was happening and the psychology with it. Okay.
So, did your mom also work?
Yes, she worked for 35 years for a Japanese restaurant called Tokyo Gardens. Mm-hmm. It was located on 4701 Westheimer, near 610, on the other side of the Galleria. Mm-hmm. And the lady who and the couple that hired her was Mr. and Mrs. Gondo. They came from California. She was a third-generation Hawaiian-born Japanese, okay, and Mrs. Hisako Gondo, and then the elder Juntaro, he was Kibei Nisei, means he was born I think West Coast, I'm not sure which state, and then to be raised and educated, the parents sent him back to Japan. So, and then he came later, I guess, when after he finished high school or so. And he was in a movie. They needed extras, and he was in a movie called Tokyo Joe with Humphrey Bogart. He has one line, "Who speaks English?" Humphrey Bogart says, and just, "Yes, I speak English." That was his, one line. Anyway, he was in several movies. He's very embarrassed about that, anybody to know. But anyway, he and Mr. and Mrs. Gondo decided to open up a Japanese restaurant in Dallas, Texas. And they came, and they opened a restaurant, and then they opened a restaurant in Houston, and they were building it. So it was really, have y'all ever seen that restaurant? Did you? No, it closed 1997. It was open for 35 years, and very interesting. It was a car dealership before, so it was very big, spacey, and they put a huge pond, like maybe 2 of these rooms, carp, and a bridge over it would you walk over, and one very heavy-set guy was leaning too much on that rail, and it crashed in. So we had to put please do not lean on the rail. But it was it had a stage for dance, and for we even had a martial art exhibit one time, I remember, but mostly for dance. Every 30 minutes there was a dance on the weekend.
I see you also worked at the Tokyo Japanese restaurant, right?
Yes, I worked as a receptionist at the. Which would you like to sit, on the table and chair or on the floor? Most people, the non-Japanese, wanted to sit on the floor, on the rice mats floor. The Japanese wanted table and chair. And the business, Mitsubishi, Sumitomo, all these different companies, they said, please don't sit us next to another company. So we have to space out, and all that. Japanese companies are far, far away.
So how old were you?
Oh, I was in my last year of high school, so 17, and I started working there.
For how long?
Oh, on the when they're busy, like some conference, homeowners association conference, home builders or something, or OTC conference, offshore technology conference, or the summer vacation. So I worked off and on from the time I was 17 until, was it 20, I said, wait, it was 18, 19, 20, okay. When I was 21, I dropped out of U of H because it was really hard for me. I was sleeping. I have always gone to sleep. If I'm not talking or if I'm not moving, I fall asleep. My blood pressure will drop to 55/45. I mean, people think, well, that's like almost dead, isn't it? But all through school, I was sleeping. I mean, the teacher would wake me up, So I think, low thyroid. I think that's what it is. But if I'm busy and I'm talking or moving or dancing, I can stay awake. So it was really hard. U of H, I have to study like 3 hours for every 1 hour of classroom, and it was just, gosh, I am struggling so hard, and all these other students are easily doing these same required courses, so I'll look for something else that everybody else is missing out on. So I dropped out and went to look for a job, and it was not easy. So I still had a job at Tokyo Gardens on the weekends. I was doing a receptionist and cashier, and do the daily cash report, and help with the cleaning. I cleaned up all the tempura crumbs were all over the floor, because people struggling with chopsticks for the first time, they're usually not used to it, and that was fun. Yeah.
Do you remember how much you got paid?
Yeah, minimum wage was at that time around $2.50 an hour. I remember.
What year was it?
Oh, see, I graduated in 1970, so around that time, in the 70s. But the waitresses, see, Mother made the payroll check, so I could see it. They were making like $1 and something cents an hour. And I said, Mother, why is it the waitresses are getting paid such small amounts, and I'm getting paid $2.50, and I'm newer than they are? And I said, well, why? And she said, well, because they make tips. And I said, oh, is it that much they make? And I did not know, but actually, I'll say, I don't know all their cases, but one of the cases, the lady was working lunch and dinner, and her tips was enough to buy 2 houses, one to live in and tenant, have a tenant. And this is in the southwest area. These are small houses, like 1, 2, 3 bedroom house, but well, that's good, isn't it? Can you do that today? I don't think so. Things were so different. U of H, I could, as I said earlier when we were coming up here, I was able to pay with that. It was like $150 a week I was making. And I could pay all my tuition at U of H, parking ticket, books, gasoline, and I had something to spare, so I could, I offered Mother, I said, let me pay part of the electric bill or something. She says, no, wait till you graduate. I said, no, go ahead, but she wouldn't take it, so I would buy music, classical music, or old records, because I liked it and she liked it, and so it was easy. And you know what? This is a crime today, 2012. The biggest business is on students, charging them horrendous amount for their education. It's a business, and the textbooks, like last night on the radio and KPFT, or was it night or was it? Larry Payne's call-in show at 8 o'clock on Monday night. Larry Payne's a teacher at HCC, and one father said, the textbooks my daughter is buying, they're out of date within the next year, and she has to buy another one. They're expensive, these things. And in my day, we just passed the textbooks, and don't put all this. And so he said, well, we're going to have to do something, and then maybe organize and pass the books, and maybe make our own textbooks. Anyway, this is wrong. We need new legislation to protect. This weak people, students. You go after them, or weak people get taken advantage of, and the 1% people are not paying taxes. It's just amazing, making millions of dollars.
Do you remember how much the tuition was?
Yeah, I did. It was around $200 for one fall
semester.
Yeah, okay. 200 and about 200 for the winter semester. And I didn't go to. I went to the summer one time, and it was really cheap. I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
And you also had a car.
Yeah, but the car was the Tokyo Gardens owner, Mrs. Gondo. She let us have the company car. Mm-hmm. So Mother and I had a company car, and then she leased another car. She leased a car for the company car and let Mother drive it. So. What happened? We had a car. We had an Impala. Was that from? Oh, she wouldn't remember. Let me think. I think that Impala was ours. No, that was our car. And then later, Mrs. Gondo, she let my mother drive a company car. So Mother didn't have to take our car to work. So I had to. But I told it out. I went 3 days without sleep and studying for finals, and got stuck in bumper to bumper traffic, and then I was just following the car behind, and it already turned red, so I hit a car, and that car hit another car, so I totaled out the car, and I damaged 2 other cars, and that's bad. I wonder how many students do that.
So you had to commute from Pasadena to
U of H,
yes. And then work at the Westheimer, right?
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would spend the night with my grandmother, who lived in the present house, in the Sharpstown area. They bought that house in 1968. My grandmother and grandfather did.
And did you say the owners of the restaurant were friends of the family or relatives?
My grandmother had met Mrs. Gondo at some kind of Japanese function, and my mother was looking for a job because when I was 11, she decided to look for a job, and so my grandmother introduced my mother to Mrs. Gondo, and my mother had only a high school diploma. And Mrs. Gondo hired her, and she was her secretary before the restaurant was even finished. Was still under construction. So it's amazing. And so I think my mother was getting like $750 a month, and then at the end in 1997 she was getting like $1,000 a month, and she was working she would get to work 12 noon and finish 12 midnight, and but she had she had a car. All she had to do was pay gas and keep upkeep, but the company was
Do you
paying her
remember
car.
the gas price?
Oh yeah, it was like 78 cents a gallon
Oh,
in
wow.
the 70s. That's another thing. That's why I do think we all need to go electric car and get the electricity free from the sun. You know,
So, what was your favorite thing about your job?
my
What
job.
did you like the most about the job?
Well, it was many different people in the Tokyo Gardens restaurant, and I only worked on the weekends now because there were not enough Japanese waitresses. So they had Korean restaurant, Chinese, Philippine, and they all were given Japanese names.
Really?
Yes, and but the bus boys could be Hispanic or Vietnamese or Chinese. I remember this one Vietnamese boy. He came and he's been working like 2 months or so. He was a really hard worker, and he was learning English at the same time. Maybe 15, 16 years old, and then he came after 3 weeks. He said 3 months, and he said to Mrs. Gondo, "I work hard. You give me raise." You know, very upright. And he said, "I introduced my younger brother. He hard worker too." So both of them got a job. And Mrs. Gondo was really sweet person. Mr. Gondo too. They were both very nice people to work for. And I remember one worker. He had many children. I don't know how many children. I think at least 8. And he came first, and then he got caught. He's undocumented. Okay, so he calls Mrs. Gondo from Laredo and says, "I want to come back to Tokyo Gardens and work." And Mrs. Gondo said, "Okay, I'll try to help you." So she asked in the office what to do, and so I volunteered. And the secretary, Mary Tate, she's white accountant, and she volunteered, and my fiance, who became my husband later on, we drove out to Laredo and we picked him up and we brought him. And Daniel stayed on the floorboard the whole time. He would not get out to use the restroom. He would not get up. He just stayed on the floorboard the whole entire time. And later on, Danielle brought one by one all his children came. How many children? And then he got some kind of technical. I heard, if I remember correctly, some technical vocational auto mechanics or some kind of training. And then he left the restaurant. But I mean, Mrs. Gondo was really nice about that.
So
kind of
where was it that you drove to?
Laredo, Texas.
Laredo.
Yes.
And you mentioned that your ex-husband was with you. Did you meet him working at the restaurant then?
No. I remember he was staying in my grandmother's house. Okay, and my grandmother, whenever she had a problem, she would call the medical center for the Japanese doctors. There was a team of them working in Dr. John Sterling Meyer's Department of Neurology at Baylor Methodist Hospital, and he was chair at that time. He was a very wonderful doctor. He just died last year. Dr. Meyer was one of the few that I know of that hired lots of foreign doctors, and he had a lot of Japanese doctors always. And he taught my ex-husband research, And Dr. Meyer actually co-authored a basic textbook that all neurologists all over the world must read and study. And anyway, so my grandmother found out about them and was calling them. "Can you stop by my house and check my husband?" So it means my grandfather, because he had a stroke. And she wanted to talk in Japanese to a Japanese doctor, so the language, okay. And then when my fiance was ready to come and take over somebody else in exchange with another doctor here, and rotating, they were rotating from Keio University, doctors in the neurology department there. Well, he was alone. He was single. And they worried about him, and so they asked my grandmother, "Would you like to have a doctor living in your home?" And she said, "Yes, that's great." And because we're worried about him. And before my ex-husband came to Houston, they had another single doctor from Keio come, and he got neurotic, and he committed suicide. And he drove straight into one of those concrete highway embankments, and he went back in a ball of ash. So they didn't want the same thing to happen, and it's so caring, and so they introduced to my ex-husband to my grandmother, and he stayed, and I think she charged him I forgot. $200 or 150, something like that a month for rent and for food. So
he's actually born in Japan.
Born and raised in Japan.
And he went to medical school in Japan as
yes,
well?
Keio University. Yes, private university. It was hard to get in that school.
In Tokyo, right?
In Tokyo, yeah.
So he came to America to practice medicine?
No,
just for
research, to study research from Dr. Meyer. John Sterling Meyer was very famous.
So he just planned on staying just
usually
years,
2 or 3 years.
and then go back.
They always do that. The Japanese don't stay here too long. It's just a long time ago. The first generation, second generation, those old timers came as farmers. They stayed, but now it's just business and medical doctor. They just rotate. They go back. They don't stay.
So did he want to? So when you got married, did he want to go back or stay?
Oh, he tried. He was like, what should I do? What should I do? And he tried to get a UT, but they didn't have a space for him. And he had done successful research, brain research, and he had done the really thing I'm proud of him for doing is starting the first hypothermal therapy case for stroke. The stroke victim was 68, and they put him on a plastic bed full of circulating ice water, lower the whole body temperature down, and then gave TPA, a drug that closes up the lesions of the arteries that have burst. That stops the blood edema from rushing and breaking walls in the brain. And so after 3 days of cold temperature and total anesthesia, and then 3 days of thawing up, and then they can speak and walk and stand, and no paralysis. It was just amazing. Yeah, I found out that night. He had a mistress, I found out. Anyway, it was a big day. I remember October of 94. So he did his first patient. And it had already been settled in the animal experience. So this is a lot of credit to the basic researchers who were not doctors. They're doctors, but they do animal experience. Already confirmed with mice experience. But no one had done it in Japan with a human with stroke. They had already done it with heart trauma and with brain trauma, like falling off a ladder. But they had never done it with stroke. No, and so he started. And the next case was a 70-year-old guy, and 3 hours or 2 hours of onset, came to the hospital, freezed him up, lowered his temperature to 30, a few degrees or a little bit less than the first patient, because the first patient had a little bit of aphasia, and he would walk for speech therapy to the hospital from the train station instead of taking the bus, and that's a 20-minute downhill. So for me, maybe 30-minute uphill walk. The patient was that well. Usually strokes, they go out of the hospital in a wheelchair. They don't go out walking. It's just amazing. So that was 1994, and that second patient, he lowered the temperature a little bit lower, and this guy had no deficit, went right back to work. And then they had these heart surgery patient blunders, where you let one of those big clots get away from you. They're all right in the big arteries, but when they get up in the thin, narrow arteries of the brain, it causes stroke. And even at my ex-husband was working in National Cardiovascular Circulation Disease and Research Center in Osaka area of Japan, and that is a government hospital. And that even in that hospital, they had heart surgery cases, like 46-year-old woman, and she got a stroke during the heart surgery. Her midline of her brain completely pushed halfway into the other half of the brain. They do that hypothermal therapy, cold temperature, general thing, and the midline actually moved back to normal, and the lady discharged back to normal life. Then there was a 16-year-old born with some kind of heart problem. They decided to wait till later to do the repairing, but she suffered a stroke. Okay, and then they did the hypothermal therapy, and the girl got so well, she went right back to high school. And then she saw a ladies' magazine where a reporter had taken an interview with my ex-husband and his team, and they reported her IQ was about the same as before the surgery and the treatment. And she read that, and she got angry, and she complained in a telephone because she said, "It's exactly the same. It's not about. It's exactly the same." So anyway, she went back to school. So this is a wonderful thing, and hypothermal therapy. But now it is used, because when Dr. Meyer had a stroke, I called Methodist Hospital and I called the stroke ward. So I said, "Please do not give up on Dr. Meyer. Please try hypothermal therapy." And they said, "No, the location of it and the severity of it, he is not a candidate for hypothermal therapy." I said, I know John Meyer would say, go for it. Just use me. Go for it. Do it. Because even the last time I talked to him was 2 weeks before. He said, "What's going on with hypothermal therapy?" I said, "Yeah, I wish I knew. That's the thing I miss. I miss that about my marriage. My ex-husband used to talk to me about research and how it was going and all the things that are happening. And it was very unusual because in Japan society, the man doesn't talk about his work with his wife. So I had a very unusual husband in that sense. In that sense only, but he had a mistress, and that his secretary, 25 years younger secretary, and that's why I sued for divorce, and I sued her, and I had to fire my lawyer during the high court appeal because he wouldn't do what I wanted, and I had to represent myself, and I hire a translator, and finally I got it overturned. I didn't win anything in the district court. It's considered a legal mistress relationship because they have illegal mistress relationship. This is in Japan, which is way backward, and there's only like 7% of the women in the Congress, in the Japanese Congress, and that's like Morocco or Algeria level, and we're not much better. We have like, what is it, 14% women in the U.S. Congress. We need to improve too. But anyway, they have two. So the Japanese judge has to decide this is a legal mistress or an illegal mistress. So it was considered a legal mistress, so I got nothing. I got no child, kodomo shinken, how do you say it? I did not get custody of children. I did not get compensation. But in the high court, I overturned it, and I did not like the verdict because I did not get custody. And I won more than any Japanese woman would ever win. I won from him and from her. Her a small amount, like $2,500, but from him I won altogether from both of them. I think it was like 8 million. I can't remember now. Anyway, 8 million yen maybe. It's quite a bit, but I couldn't get child custody, so when they were reading the judgments, they did highlight reading, just small catchphrases in the highlights they were going to read 10 different cases, just the highlights of the judgment. And I was number 2 on the list. So when I heard mine and the translator was telling me what happened, I said, I have something to say. Because in the United States, people have a right to comment. But it doesn't happen in Japan. But I went ahead and did it anyway. And before, I had invited the press to come to hear my judgment. Because I told them, my husband is a government doctor. He used government funding, which was for research purposes. He gave it to his mistress, who was a secretary. And I said, he's not the only one doing this kind of thing, I'm sure. And I think you should come to because this is our tax money. This is being used for hanky-panky, in the government hospital. Okay, and then plus one of the newspapers was Mainichi Shimbun, Yomiuri Shimbun, and the other one that's no longer around, I can't remember, Asahi Shimbun. I invited all 3 papers. The Mainichi Shimbun was paying money to a bank account that was secret to me. It was made in my daughter's name when she was like 6 years old. Like 3 million yen went in there. 3 million. I think it was 3 million. That's about $30,000. And 6-year-old doesn't usually make money like that. So they were paying him, not only him, all kind of pharmacy companies were paying my ex-husband present money, gift money for advice on making this kind of drug and that kind of drug. Because in Japan, doctors do not work for pharmaceutical companies. Here, doctors work for pharmaceutical companies. But in Japan, doctors want to stay in clinics and treat patients and then give advice on the side and get some money. That's how it is over there. So it was a lot of money, and it was in my daughter's name, and my daughter was angry too. She was fine. So I realized he was saving my money and giving it to his mistress. Well, anyway, when I protested, I said, no, you should not give custody of children to a man who's, got a mistress and has already, has admitted to me that he spent some of the research money, government tax research money on his mistress, and you don't even investigate that, and you should do that. And I said, I think you 3 judges have enough experience to make a more fairer judgment. Plus, I haven't had enough time and money to translate the court papers, which are in Japanese, and they wouldn't have it. So they asked me to go in another room and get my judgment paper, and I said, and then one guy in the one city councilman, he said, if you leave, you probably get nothing. He said that like that. And so I protested for an hour and a half, and the judges took intermissions. They left the courtroom like 3 times, and when they were gone, then the people. It was standing room. It was a lot of cases at one time were going to be announced. I was holding up the show because I was number 2, and they were asking me questions about my case, and then finally they had 3 MPs. They say MP military, but they're just guards. Or I don't know, bouncers. I don't know. They came in green uniforms, and one took this hand, one took this hand, one was here. There were 3 of them. I can't remember. One was around my waist, one was in my, and I had my hand on the microphone, so I was holding it really tight. And so the other guy was trying to peel the fingers off the microphone. Okay, and then at the same time, the councilman, now his case was suing the government for broken promise. Because Osaka International Airport was built on the sea by dredging up the land and putting it there and lousing up the environment and promising the local people that the planes will come on over the sea, enter the airport, and leave over the sea and not cross over the land because they didn't want any things dropping on them. And the government promised that. And 3 months after the airport opened, they said, we misestimated things, so we'll have to go 3 courses over the land. So they were suing for that reason. I didn't know that at that time. But anyway, those people in that group came over the barricade and were trying to help me, and I was surrounded by 8 court clerks, and then I heard this kind of body hits, and so one of them was in a physical fight with one of the clerks, and then three guards were carrying me horizontally out of the courtroom, and the whole room, the people were standing, and they were saying, yelling at the judge, "Let this foreigner have more time with her case." And they didn't know me at all, but they were saying things in favor of me. Okay, well, I was carried out the courtroom, but. That case, I later on, after everything finished and everybody left, I went and talked to that man. I said, you're going to have the same judges that I had, and they're not going to like you very much because you supported me and you came over the barricade to help me. So what is your case about? And he explained it, that the government, broke their promises about the no over the land routes, and I said, okay, I'll help you. So I got involved in that, and then I got involved with anti-public works because they built 3 other airports on the sea with lots of taxpayer money, even though passenger money and activity is going down, and that was in the late 90s and 2000. These are based on plans that were made like 20, 30 years prior.
Okay, so
public works, unnecessary public works.
So did you finally get custody of your children?
No, never did. And and I called and researched foreigner getting custody of Japanese children is very difficult, except if you have 3 points. And I called a shelter in Yokohama City, and I called them and I said, "What are the 3 points that I need?" And they said, "Number 1, your husband has to be a yakuza." That means a gangster. Okay, it's not. Number 2, you have to have proof that you and your children left the house and went to a shelter. If you went by yourself, forget it. They're not going to give you custody. And what was the 3rd point? Oh, yeah, you have to have a doctor's letter that you have been hit physical damage to your body. Okay. So I didn't have those 3 points. But anyway, I still thought I should protest. I already knew that was going to happen, and I had been calling a psychic to get a little more information, and she helped me find things that he had hidden, like bank books. I mean, I don't know how she knew she was in Texas and I was in Japan, but those people have some kind of ability that is really helpful. And I need to write a book about this to encourage other Japanese women. This is Japanese women that are unhappy. They stay in these very unhappy marriages, even though they get beaten up after the man eats his dinner and drinks and gets violent. They stay in these marriages because they think they have to and there's no other way. And actually, I was very lucky. I got compensation. Most women get 0 compensation. If the judgment only stays in the court. There's justice only in the courtroom. Outside the courtroom, forget it. The police will not help them get the compensation. The police won't even go after child support. Now, I mean, here they do. They go after child support. But it wasn't always that case. So Japan is way behind. I really want to help those Japanese women, but I'm going to have to help them outside of Japan. I don't know how. Maybe a book or encouraging them. It's just right now they need to work on reactor number 4. Oh, if that blows, it's bad news for It's for
Okay.
bad news for our children, your children. It's bad news for the whole world.
About speaking of your children,
Uh-huh.
were they born in Japan?
Yes, but they have dual citizenship. Yeah.
So
But-
are they still in Japan?
Oh yes, they're stubborn. They won't leave, and they won't talk to me either. I can leave messages. Until recently, I could leave messages on the phone, but now they've changed their number because I kept saying, "Get out, get out!" The groundwater is contaminated, and the groundwater contamination is moving westward from Tokyo towards where they are, and the air is already contaminated, and they're living like here's Japan, here's Fukushima, here's Tokyo, here's Nagoya, and here's Osaka, and then on down to Kagoshima. Okay, so we're in the middle. Osaka's in the middle where my children are, and just above Osaka is Kyoto, and that city is it was not bombed during World War II because the Secretary of State had his honeymoon there, and he somehow is credited for saving Kyoto from being bombed. And a English teacher teaching there, I heard on Coast to Coast AM, Coast to Coast, that's a nighttime radio show from midnight to 4 a.m., Fox Radio, 740 AM. Really interesting subjects they talk about that are not spoken on usual mainstream media. Yeah. Anyway, so this one English professor from the United States was teaching in Kyoto, and he bought a millisiever counter and put it down close to the front of his house. And things collect, so it was 400. That's way. Like the Japanese government raised all the toxic limits from 10 to 20 millisievers. It's okay for the air because they went up, and the excuse is they went up and they had an airplane catch some of the air, or a helicopter catch some of the air, but way up in the air in a fast-moving vehicle like a helicopter, air is being dispersed really fast, so you're getting a very weak concentration. It was 20, so we raised 10 is too low, so 20 is all right. So he tested the ground in front of his house. It was 400. Well, he said, we're leaving. And he said, I just paid a lot of money to repave my driveway. I mean, it sounds silly, but everything in Japan is super, super expensive. That means he owns his own house. It's very, very expensive to have a house. I mean, one organic apple is going to be $2.50 when I left, or 300 yen, $3. So, I mean, like having a car inspected, it cost me $1,500 to get it inspected, and a car tax was $400 a year just for having a car. I mean, everything in Japan is so terribly, terribly expensive. Food, I was paying for just myself, $700. No, that's what I was making. Around $400 a month just for myself,
Okay.
and no meats. I wasn't eating meats.
When, like, what year?
2005 when I left, those are the prices. And I was bicycling everywhere because my car broke down. I was living in my car. I lived in my car for about 4 years because I could not. I didn't know. My friends offered to sign as a guarantor, a guarantee or guarantor. Yeah, in case you don't pay your rent. But I didn't want anybody to do that because I couldn't really know because I was living from hand to mouth, teaching English conversation, mostly to women. I gave one class where men were invited, and men did come once a week on a Saturday afternoon, but in the children, mothers and children class, and then just housewives. And I wanted to give some guts to those women, give them guts and I told them, mothers, don't drink milk. I mean, GMO is polluted. Growth hormones, recombinant bovine growth hormones put in the milks in the United States, and I'm sure it's a possibility that the same thing happening with Japanese milk, and they were aghast. I told them, yeah, food quality, the safety, and I said the cancer rates are skyrocketing in Japan faster than they are in the United States. And they have a lot of fertilizers they buy and a lot of fertilizing done. The fields don't rest enough in Japan. They immediately use it. And then when I left, in the supermarket, it was made in China vegetables. I was surprised. And China has very low laws on safety, food safety, and some of my students were bringing back pictures of rivers in China, red, Christmas red, a river. Another river, Christmas green. And I said, did you ask the people why the water was colored like that? And they said, yeah, they said that we don't know why, but it's been like that for some time because they're using lots and lots of chemicals and fertilizers for their land and dumping a lot of industry chemicals. And then I said, what else did you see? This one guy, he said, yeah, there's a dog. It's alive. And about one, cyclops, one eye. And yeah. Anyway, they know. I mean, I talked to a PhD in physics from China. He says, I know the food's bad, but I have to eat, so I have to eat it. And I said, you don't have to go back to China. He said, oh, I must. China paid for my research study here in Japan, and if I go to the U.S. Later on, I must return to China and help China. I said, you can help China outside of China. You can do that. And I said, and if you go to work for a institute in the United States, make sure that your name is first on your papers, and your professor can be second or last or wherever he wants to put it. But don't let him put his name first. Make sure you get credit for you work and you're not treated as a slave, okay? And he just smiled at me. Anyway, the Chinese,
Okay.
he went.
So sorry to interrupt, but we'd like to
Yes. I'll go back to labor,
back
yes.
to labor and talk about your training as a nurse's aide.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Only 2 weeks. Okay, leading up before that, I tried to find all kind of. I didn't think, well, what can I do? Because I'm not getting far in college, you
So
know.
after you dropped out of college.
Yeah, I dropped out, but I knew I need to get a job because I want to work and find out what life is, find out something else because this is so struggling, and it struggled just to keep a B average. It was very hard. Anyway, I called this place and called that place, and then finally, this was very interesting. One lady said yes, but she was way out on Katy Freeway. She says, I need a bookkeeper, somebody, a filing clerk, and I really would like you, but you live in Pasadena. That's too far, and I'm only worried about that. I said, well, thank you very much for your thinking of hiring me because I can't get a job. I can't get a job with this. One man on the phone said, "Oh, at U of H on the bulletin board it says you have a job opening," and then he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Saibara," and he said, "Is that Spanish?" And I didn't answer. I just kept quiet. What kind of name is that? And I didn't answer. I said, well, Saibara. And is it a Spanish name? I said, no, it is not. And long pause. And then he said, no, the position is filled. So I reported that to U of H and said, we'll take that one ad off the bulletin board. I said, okay, I think so too. Anyway, but then I thought, well, I like to help people. And then my fiance, and he was not my fiance, he was just my boyfriend at that time, but we were getting very close. And I thought, well, if I'm going to get married with a doctor, I better find out what a doctor's world is. So I called Methodist Hospital, and they said, yes, we need nurse aides, 2-week training. And I said, okay. And I thought, only 2 weeks? Wow, that's short. So we learned how to take pulse, thermometer, plastic thermometer, and what else? Respiration, and how to, briefly, how to take blood pressure, and what else were we taught? We weren't taught much. That's it, 2 weeks. And then I got my first job. They said, we have lots of openings at the night. Maybe later on we'll have an opening in the day. I said, oh, it's okay. I'll take the night. Anything, I want to hurry up and start working and learn. So I worked on the first 8th floor, 8 Southwest, of Methodist. And it's the gastrointestinal ward. And people are up all night doing diarrhea because they're going to have a colonoscopy in the morning or an operation. They need to be cleared out. So they want a magazine, or they want to talk, or they want this or that. Okay, then it was the first night, and they said, oh, we have an expired patient. So, Nancy, you need to go in there, and here's the kit. And Richard will help you. Same name as my ex-husband's nickname. And Richard knew how to do it, and I didn't know what to do. And so a lady sharing the room was crying, please get the dead lady out of my room. And so I was saying, okay, and I'm trying to sound very calm. I didn't know what to do, so he taught me how. And I had to take the body to the morgue and put a tag on the right toe, I believe. And the lady expired of cancer, I believe. But after that, it was mostly turning patients, bedroom. A lot of patients from nursing homes came, got well, like after 2 or 3 months, went right back, came back later with more bed ulcers. that you have to rinse and clean and then turn them. And I said, these nursing homes, ooh, you know, ooh. And then find out later, Texas nursing homes are below the average. You know, this is something I don't want ever put my mother in a nursing home. But even if I did, she cannot afford it. Our neighbor went to a nearby nursing home. It was $3,000 a month. His wife had to be in a lockdown unit. It was $4,500 a month. So all their savings just, phew.
So, do you remember how much you got paid for your?
Yes, I did. It was 300 and something. $320 was the salary, but since I was going to work at night, $100 extra, so $420 a night. Yeah.
So how long did you have that job as a
Oh,
nurse?
7 months, and I had to quit, and I sadly quit that job. But I had trouble driving home in the morning from 11 to 7 shift. It was dangerous, and I was trying to keep up my classical ballet at the same time because I was assistant teacher and I was teaching ballet in the evenings, and then trying to get a little shut eye, and then go to work at 11 to 7, and it wasn't really good. You know, I was falling asleep while standing up. Like one of the nurses said, "Nancy, you're sleeping standing up." I am. Oh, I thought you were talking and the lights went out. I was wondering, why are you talking when the lights went out? You don't notice?
So you were a ballet instructor?
Yeah, I took ballet for 14 years from Tatiana Semenova. She's how do you say, White Russian who escaped. Yeah, she escaped Russia. Yeah, and she was first director of Houston Ballet before they became ballet. Houston Ballet, it was a Houston Ballet Foundation at first, and they wanted her to do all kind of things like jazz and tap and all kind of like a dance studio, and she was against that. And she was not somebody that easily could control, and she was fired. And I left with her to start another school. Yeah.
So where was this ballet school at?
Oh, it was on Louisiana Street at Holman. It's now nothing there, just a highway, and it's not there anymore. But she had a small, it was called Ballet of Houston, and some of the students left with her, but most of the students stayed with the Houston Ballet. And I remember one lady taking a petition in the parking lot as the parents are coming with their children to take. And I remember one guy, his daughter's in the advanced class. He said, "I really appreciate Tatiana Semenova. I really appreciate her teaching my daughter, and her teaching has nothing to do with her ability. But I work for Exxon, or I work for Shell. I forgot which company. And if I sign that petition, there's going to be trouble for me." And I remember hearing that. I was wondering, why would that be any problem? You know, just so fear stops us from doing a lot of things. And like getting petitions, signatures against the Civilian Review Board, elected Civilian Review Board with subpoena power, proper funding, and prosecutorial power. This is really hard because people, but see, when these things happen, like that Chad Holly case, and the policeman got off scot-free, not guilty, acquitted, you know, and he pointed the gun at his head while Chad's on the floor, and then he kicked him in the head, and he pointed 2 times in the movie. You'll see him do that, and he got acquitted. Okay, well, you know, people are afraid to sign this thing, and but after that happened, I got more signatures on the bulletin board at KPFT, and so the 4th page has been signed, and it's been 1 year I've had that petition there. Now I've got 4 pages, so little by little. It's very intimidating, and we could get. But if you don't stand up against injustice, it will bite you later on down the road until you had enough and no more, and then you do something. And you can do things the smart way. Ask other people unaffiliated to complain for you. That may be very smart and actually more effective. The more people, different people that complain about something.
So when you get married, do you move right back to Japan?
Yeah, I went to Japan to get married.
And then did you have a job when you were in Japan?
Just taking care of 2 children, and after my children got kind of much older, I took a part-time job teaching children at a English conversation. Little 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and they learn really fast. Anything. They'll repeat and copy anything you say. So I was doing flashcards because I had taken the Better Baby course in what is that? Philadelphia, for children. Because my first child, she could not speak at the age of 3. and she would have trouble speaking. She would cry. She said, "E, E, E," and I understand. I cannot speak what I want to speak when I want to speak. So she had trouble. So at 3 years of age, I studied all kind of this pile of books about child development, and finally I found one that said, "Yeah, there's something you can try. No promise," and it was. The Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential in Philadelphia, and Glenn Doman started it and has books: How to Teach Your Baby to Read, How to Teach Your Baby Multiple Intelligence, and using flashcards, stimulation, physical stimulation. You grab the kid by the arm and ankle, and they like that, and reverse. And the little newborn baby, you do that too, like this, and reverse. Same number. Clockwise as you spin clockwise, so the brain gets equally stimulated. And the creeping and crawling, my children and I, they did most of the crawling, with their stomach on the ground. That kind of crawling was like 400 yards a day, and then hands and knees creeping 800 yards a day. And they did cello, violin, and piano, and what else did they do? Oh yeah, swimming. I taught them how to swim. They were 3 and 2 years old. And 9 months later, they were reading their first book. So it's really easy. It's just you stimulate. You don't test. You just flash the cards. And I made 7,000 flashcards. They had around 15 different groups, like bugs or cats or dogs or constellations or picture of the cell, the mitochondria, the whatever. I forgot.
So you taught Japanese infants, like 3-year-olds?
No, I taught my own children.
I mean, like your part-time job?
Oh, my part-time job. Oh, yes, I taught at a school, English conversation.
So it was at a school, like
it was
public school?
No, a private English school. They have a lot of them in Japan. Yeah, they're teaching a lot of kids.
So I see like a lot of Japanese people, they're not really good, like familiar with English.
But they can read.
But they can read. So what you taught was just mostly...
Yeah, we did Broadway musicals, I'm singing in the rain if you...
Are Japanese parents really into teaching English to their children?
They're followers. The Japanese public school is like, you quiet, you listen to teacher, you memorize, and you do the test. You don't ask questions like why or how. And I tried to. I had a small English class for beginner English school teachers, public school teachers. I had 3 at first it was 5, and then only 3 of them. I said, ask questions, ask them to think. They said, yes, we know what you're talking about, Nancy, but we have no time. We have a long curriculum. We have to get a schedule of things. And I said, but you have to get kids to think, otherwise they're always following orders, and then nothing gets done, Well, anyway, that's the mentality in Japan. And so when my daughter was fifth grade, I forgot. The school teacher said, children, American children are not as intelligent as Japanese children. The reason why is because we in Japan go to school 6 days a week, but American children only 5 days a week. And American children have 3 months of summer vacation. Japanese only have 1.5 months. So that is why Japanese children are much more intelligent than American children. And my daughter, she came home and told me this story. She was pushing her lower lip out, and the teacher said, Naritomi-san, or Miss Naritomi, what's wrong? She said, I don't like calling a country, not intelligent. I don't like bad things being said about another country's intelligence. I don't like that. Then the other kids, she said, were saying, look, we're number 1 in cameras, in computers, to TVs. Japanese cameras are the best in the world, the Seiko watch. And she says, I don't care if the American watches or TVs are not number 1. I just don't like it. So I thought, when I heard that story, all my work paid off, I was so happy.
So could you tell us the name of the school?
Yes, Aoyamadai Shogakko. Aoyamadai means green mountain. Anyway, it's public elementary. Yeah, Ao means green. Yama is mountain. Dai, I don't know, area, whatever. Is it public elementary? Shogakko. Sho means small. Gakko is school, so it's elementary school. Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you worked at the...
Oh, I didn't work there. I worked at a private English school.
Oh, okay.
Then my children went to public school, elementary. Then they went to a private junior high school, and then one went to a public high school. One went to a they both went to public high schools. Yeah, but they went to private junior high school. I had to. It was the junior high school was a very. It was private. It was expensive. It was like $3,000 a semester. I think it was very expensive, but it was more on the naive side and sweet. More caring. Teachers more caring. It was a smaller school. That's probably the main thing. Smaller. The high schools, wow, 16 classes with 40, 50 kids in each class. For example, the first grade of high school had 16 different classes, and it's factory. It's it's factory education. It's terrible. So anyway, my children one went to a private university and one went to a prefectural state foreign language university, and would not tell me where she went. I found out much later after she graduated because she didn't want me to come and visit. So I have almost no communication whatsoever with my children. They don't talk. They said only call if it's an emergency. I don't know what they consider emergency. And the last time I gave a message, I said, hurry up and get out of Japan. Go anywhere. Go New Zealand. Go to the United States, but get out of there. And then I was angry. I said, I'm going to end up taking care of 2 cancer daughters, if you don't. They're childbearing age now, 30 and 29. They need to get out. I don't know if I helped you with labor. Labor is
It's fine. You've given a lot of good information. And I actually had a few more questions.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, why did you move to Japan?
Because he decided to go to work in Japan. That's why. So I went there, got married, and he was asking me, what should I do? I said, well, what do you think is good for your work or research? He said, well, if I stay in the university hospital, I'm going to be treating chronic patients and be so tied up with all my time, I have no time for research. He said, if I go to this research institute, I will be able to have time for research primarily, and I can do checkups, follow-ups on the side. But he said, I don't have to be tied up with just chronic patients or in the ward. Because if you're in the ward, you don't have time for mice experiments and things like that. It's just very difficult. And he did do very well. He was a lot of papers published in international congresses, and the hypothermia therapy was, I think, the peak of wonderful things that he got done and started. Yeah, so keep that in mind. If you have somebody that has a stroke, quick, get to the hospital. The quicker the time, the less edema. The edema that is rushing, all that blood is what breaks down all the walls. And hypothermia therapy, when we got a divorce, when we were going through a divorce, still, when I would see him a little bit and talk to him, I said, well, what's going on now? He said, well, now I'm thinking not so drastically to do general anesthesia and put him out, knock him out completely, but with lower the brain temperature by drugs. I'm trying to do it less drastic so it's easier on the patient and less chance of blood sepsis or some kind of infection. And that was really hard to get started because it was, for one thing, it's a government hospital, and the nurses says, ooh, we are so busy, now you bring us something new to do, and we're scared, we don't know how to do this, so the nurses didn't want to take care or help, so it was just doctors' effort. And it took him like 7 months or 8 months to get to that plastic bed, for the circulating ice water, for the patient. And he had to break a lot of hurdles just to get it started. But that night, October of '94, he finally got the first case started. That was wonderful. And then, anyway, that was good. And so, and then he got a little bit selfish. You see, when your private life is not quite right, and it comes out on your work. So I went there for some reason and to the lab late at night, and then he got a call, and I was half listening to it. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, they have 2 teams of neurology, one department and another department, and they take turns when an emergency patient comes in. Well, they got one, the other team got one, and they wanted his advice on a hypothermotherapy because only his team was doing it." And I said, "So what did you say?" He said, "Well, it's not my turn, and I don't get the praise for this patient getting better, and I don't want to help." I said, "You go and help, and you teach them. What are you talking about? That's the purpose for you became a doctor." So he kind of went out of the room and disappeared for a while. And I don't know if he did or not, but I called my psychic. Did he go? Did he go and help? He said, "Yeah, he did a little bit." But I see he's getting selfish, and he says, "I want to get the praise for this." And I said, "Okay, do you want me to call the newspapers and tell them?" He said, No, don't do that. That looks bad." But he finally did get praise in newspapers and magazines much later. But you have to watch your spiritual path as well as your academic path or your job path. If it's not together in sync, it just spoils everything.
And so, when you moved to Japan, did you speak Japanese? at that time?
No. I knew food names. I knew restaurant terms because I'd worked in the restaurant, like okanjo is a bill, all kind of restaurant things. I knew food names. So I had to learn with a dictionary. I carried an English-Japanese dictionary. So when somebody says something, then I look it up and I find out. And by that time, the conversation has changed. Wait a minute, what were we talking about? So it was very hard. It was like the same as listening to cicadas. You don't understand what they're saying. They're saying something. And that's how it was for me. It was really, but those doctors, especially ex-husband, spoke English a lot because he had to, at work. So our household was just English only. And the children, if they spoke to me in Japanese, I would say, "What is that in English?" I would just pretend, because otherwise I'd heard from other cases where they start speaking Japanese, the mother speaks Japanese to the kids, and then they will not try English at all. So my kids, bilingual, yeah, until 2000 when they went to live with their father. And I went to live in my car. My car later on, well, almost later on, after the money ran out now. But that was interesting. I think everybody should have a chance to be homeless, at least for a short time, because you have time to think. No television, nobody calling you, and you have time to think about a lot of things. And then you see a lot of discrimination against the homeless. You will taste it, and you will understand. Almost anybody can become homeless. It doesn't matter. You could have a master's degree and still become, or a doctor's degree. Your job get lost, your house foreclosed, your car taken away from you, and then you're on the streets. So it doesn't matter if you have degrees. So it just.
So while you were living in a car, how did you support yourself?
I was teaching English to mothers and children and ladies, mostly ladies group.
Like in a community center?
Oh, yeah. The libraries had a small community center combination library, and I would rent a room. So the room fee was like half my salary. I was making like $700 a month, and I would pay like half of it to the libraries to rent the rooms, and then the other half was the food, and very little left for transportation when I'd have to take a bus every once in a while. But most of the time I was bicycling. So I got in good shape with the bicycle. And that city gives away free bicycles. I mean, it's a college town, and they have a foreign language university plus the Osaka State University, so a lot of students from all over the world, and they need transportation. So they have the city offers you pick out all the thrown away bicycle, and then the city pays for a few parts, and then you pick out what you want, and then volunteers, old guys and some old lady, and they'll say, "Okay, I'll teach you how to," and they teach you how to put it together. So I got a free bike that way. Plus I had 4 cats, and the 4 cats kept me warm in the winter. They all, one on my feet, 1 or 2 in my lap, 1 here. They kept me warm, and so I really owe them. They're very warm. Their temperature, is higher than our temperature. The dogs and cats, yeah. And so I needed to take my cats with me wherever I went. So they even put a platform on the back of my bicycle so I could have my pet cage so I can take my cats with me.
So in 2002, you finally moved back
No, 2005.
2005.
Six. I'm sorry, 6.
2006.
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
And then, since then, you've been taking care of your mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Take care of mom. Yeah. Mom, say something.
What do you mean, say
What was your first salary? Do you remember what your first salary was?
No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember the first? Well, she was interned in Aurora, Arkansas during World War II, and she was 17 or so, and then she got a job as a secretary as the junior high school principal because they had schools within the camps, you know.
Oh, for Japanese people?
Yeah, Japanese first and second generation people, yeah. And her brothers got to leave the camp earlier than she and her mother. They went to university. I forgot where they went.
Chicago.
Chicago. Well, one was became an electrician, one became an architect. You know. And then after the war, she went to Chicago because a lot of Japanese went to Chicago, and she got a job in Honeymooners Bakery, and she likes sweets. I don't let her have them. Anyway, that represents where she picked her next job. and then she happened to meet my father when she went to visit some valley friends in the valley. And my father used to truck the valley ruby red grapefruits from the valley to Chicago and visit her, you know, and fell in love with her. And I just recently discovered his letters to her. Man, I was so surprised. He's staring at her picture and said, please write. Okay, dreaming when I next see you. And also he's talking about the weather, severe weather, and the flowers on the rice dropped off. And he said, oh, we're going to lose a lot of rice this year. We farmers are gamblers, aren't we? And then, yeah, so he was talking about how hard it is for the farmers. It's always been hard, but government should give subsidies for the farmers instead of making factory farms where you don't know what you're eating and the quality of the food. Never mind.
So you moved back to take care of her?
Yeah, I take care of my mother because I could not tell on the phone. I had real short conversations with her with a pay telephone, talking to her maybe 8 minutes at the most, or maybe 5 minutes, or not very long. And she sounded fine. But then somebody from Houston got a hold of my ex-husband's telephone number and called him and said, "Hey, she's not all there. You gotta come. She's forgetting to lock the door when she goes out, and she's just sitting around. The house is a mess," he said. "So tell Nancy." So then one day I came back to my car and there was a note pasted on the windshield. On the side window. It was my daughter. It said, "Oh, you better call our friend." And he said, "Mother's not well." So I called my mother immediately and I asked her, "How you doing?" And she said, "I'm fine." "Well, what are you eating?" And I'm eating vegetables, and don't worry. And then I called this friend. I said, "I just talked to my mother." I left a message, and I said, "I think she's all right, and she sounds all fine." Then he immediately calls again, my ex-husband. My ex-husband has my daughter put a note and says, call this friend again. So I call him again, and he said, "Hey, I talked to your mother 2 days after you called her." And I said, "What did Nancy say?" And he said, "Nancy didn't call me." I said, "Okay, I made a decision. Okay, I'm going to close up everything here and I'll return to Texas. This can't work." And I was completely fooled. So you have to see and be with them to know their mental level, and you cannot just count on a telephone call. And she fooled everybody. She fooled my uncles. Didn't realize this. Everybody. So. Dr. Meyer said that she has Alzheimer's, and I disagree with him. I think it is the mercury amalgam fillings that they're still legally able to put in people's mouths today. In European unions, there's some countries that ban it. But that thing with every bite, every time you drink something hot or eat something hot or brush your teeth, mercury vapor comes out, touches the inside of your mouth and goes into your brain and messes up gives you Alzheimer-like symptoms. So this has got to be stopped, this amalgam thing. And there's one nonprofit organization called IAOMT.org. It's International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, and it's two of their purposes is to teach dentists how to safely remove those things using independent air with a nitrous hood so they don't smell it while they're having it out, and their whole face is covered with wet paper towels, so the metal and the mercury won't go on their skin, and then a big vacuum pipe to take it out. And and you take a stool specimen the day before you have it removed, and 3 days later, and it's like 12 times more mercury in your stool after they're removed, because all that touching the inside of your cheeks goes into your body. So, anything medicine you put on your skin, it goes in. It goes in. So people, you have to be sure whatever you wash your clothes with, all those detergents, they go into your skin. They're made from oil, So I wash laundry with boric acid. Well, half a cup of borax. 20 multine borax. I get it from Fiesta. Yeah,
So do you stay with her all the time?
Yeah, we're a 2-people package. She goes to me to the committee meetings at KPFT. That's where we were Friday night, and then after I finished the meeting, I had my telephone plugged in, and I heard Brian's voice, and I went, "Oh no!" And they said, "What happened?" "Oh no!" And I just thought, "Oh, there's 2 people waiting in the hot parking lot, and this lady's not showing up." I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
It's hormone decline, I think. I know my mother has a good excuse. It's mercury amalgam fillings, but any kind of filling, all those metals, you suck at them. If you know anybody, take care of your teeth. Please take care of your teeth and dental floss, and put the floss in water for a while before you put it on, because then some of the chemicals will be diluted. We have to do much harder work to make safe water, safe food, safe air, safety, because there are more and more birth defects, more and more children that will not have a chance, and that's y'all's, your generation's. It's going to be a horrible, horrible mess. In Japan, I had, through my little class, I got nurse stories about deformities. And in Japan, they have very high rating on infant mortality. I mean, very healthful, high rating in the world. But when you're 2 months pregnant, or 3 months, I think 3 months pregnant, they do an ultrasound. And if there's anything that's strange, they will say, abort your child. And I had a German measles titer that they said was 700. It was too high. They wanted me to abort my first child. And I said, no, I can't do it. I'm just not going to do it. And he asked me, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I went with my husband, and I said, tell that doctor in Japanese, I am not going to do it for 2 reasons. Number 1, no baby's perfect. And number 2, I can't live with the idea of killing my child. And number 3, I don't feel anything bad going on, and I trust my intuition. So tell him I'll sign the paper. He made me sign a lot of release of, liability, And the first baby is fine.
So right now you're living with your mom?
Yes, since 2006.
So how do you support your family?
Mother's Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, $1,400 a month? Mm-hmm. Okay, but that might go if Republicans have their way. They want to cut back on that. Plus, mother has stock and mutual funds, and I just liquidated them. And it took me a fight to get Morgan Stanley to liquidate it. They tried everything in the book to stop me from doing it. They said, you have to sign our form. And I said, well, what's your form? And they emailed it to me. I give up the right of suing in court, that I submit to arbitration. And my lawyer friend said, oh, those arbitrators, they usually favor the big pockets, not the smaller people. So I told them, I would never give up my right to sue in court. I enjoyed myself in court in Japan. I was in 7 different cases. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they said, well, we want to talk to your mother directly. And I said, that means they're questioning my power of attorney. And then suddenly they changed their tune, and I can't figure out why. They said, okay, we'll do it, but then they said, I said, no, do it May 8th when I gave you the papers. I gave you papers to May 7th. You received them May 8th. The price is at that day, and they did it last week. So they made about over $2,000 in difference. I don't know whether I question that later, go if I have time or energy. I might do that, because they shouldn't do that. They're treating other people worse. I've heard people are getting almost nothing for their. So she had about 106,000. They're promising me 104, and so the cash assets legally they're required to give me. They wouldn't give it to me, but it came in the mail finally yesterday. So we got some money, and we have roof repair to do. Water pipes are broken, so I'm buying all our water and air conditioning. Yeah. air conditioner. So we're nude in the house with 4 fans, and well, I wear underwear. She wears underwear too. But anyway, we have a lot of house repair to do. So that money, and then I want to buy an electric car. I want to get the money out of paper and put it into something, land or something, because troubles are coming, and it's going to be really bad, and we're going to all have to band together. We're going to have the elders teach, instead of paying enormous amounts. And what they're doing, they're privatizing the elementary and junior high. So, but the main factor is smaller class load, grade goes up. It's more time. So, being a homeschooling, I did homeschool my children until they got through the end of elementary, and I kept them home from school Wednesdays. And I had a big fight with that, with ex-husband. He didn't like that. And the teachers gave up to fight against me. They let me go do that. and I refused the school lunch too. I want them to have organic food and brown rice. And the school is all white rice, and they serve chocolates and on birthdays and on. I said I don't want to do that. And so for 2.5 years I did that, or maybe 3, and then I gave up. I just lost my will because ex-husband kind of brainwashing me. You're not a very good mother, and why don't you, disappear? And and I didn't know there was a mistress. I just knew my husband's attentions were changing, and I actually gave up my power, and I should have stuck to it. Well, anyway, I am so glad I went through a divorce, and I won finally compensation, much more. Most women win nothing, and that's why they stay in horrible marriages. And the children watch it and see it, and they do repeat. History, it repeats unless you have something changing. So I hope for my kids' case, they will remember that they don't talk to me because they said I should have stayed married until they got out of university so that their friends would not know anything that happened. And they said, Mother, do not write a book. And I was also going to start a website in Japan of deadbeat dads, the picture and the history, and maybe even put the website in America, but let them see some kind of pressure, because most of the Japanese dads pay nothing, no matter what is decided in the court. They pay zero. So they need help. They need help. But anyway, much bigger case is that reactor number 4. What's going to happen to it? It's everybody's problem in the world. Oh, by the way, we have Chernobyl inside of us. You know that, right? Yeah, the world turns and it comes down. Even in South Pole, there's Chernobyl particles. So that was 1989 or 88 now. So this is, I'm so happy the Japanese women are marching in the streets finally, and they're protesting they want all the nuclear reactors to close. And we're going to have a new one built south of here, near Victoria. And it's like nobody knows about it. They have 2 reactors in Bay City. And if either one of those reactors, they're the same design as the one in Fukushima, the same GE Mark whatever, 4, Mark II, I forgot. And Greg Palast, he came, he's a reporter, and he works for BBC television, I think, in London. He used to be a Pacifica reporter for the KPFK, the Los Angeles station, that our Pacifica station network. And he came and he said it's just saving on money. Like those generators that were supposed to generate electricity for the Fukushima reactors in case they got wet, or got damaged, and they didn't work. They were not made to work, he said. That he's getting inside information from all over. And he said what happened is they couldn't even test drive these things at full speed because they would break up. So they were not ready. It wasn't that they were flooded with water, and they wouldn't work even if they weren't flooded with water. So that's how we are not on the ball on things. We're trusting, and then the corporations want us so busy making our bread and butter that we don't have any energy or time to even look at what's happening. The news or the what's happening, how we're getting taken advantage of, and students, do they know? They know they're in pain, but do they know that the biggest industry is student loans, more than credit card loans? I mean, did y'all know that?
Okay, I want to go back a little bit and talk about you said your job is occupation on the questionnaire as a caregiver.
Oh yeah, now for mother, yes.
So it's also like, so you're going everywhere with your mom.
Oh, I take her everywhere with me, yes.
So you actually don't have a break.
When she goes to sleep at night.
Okay.
Yeah, and then she comes with it. She's pretty patient with it, and it's good for her to see different people, although she can't remember their names. But she goes to the finance committee, the development committee, the outreach committee, the anti-racism and diversity committee, whatever committee I'm in. She goes to the events. We go to the events and we pass out flyers, and then at protest rallies I go, and then she sits on a little stool, and because she can't stand too long, and then I pass out things, and then. Make sure I have lots of food prepared for her, and the food, I changed her food completely. She was doing like a lot of people do, even younger people do, even probably students do, Cheerios, biscuits, crackers, potato chips, dips, ice cream. I mean, she was eating that kind of horrible food. I don't know what, I know Japanese students are eating horrible food. I saw what they were eating, but they were eating food from convenience store, rice balls. But that's better than these convenience stores. What they have here, probably all kind of chemicals in them, and bleached flour. If you see something white, it's been bleached with bromides. So you're eating bleach with food. That should be outlawed. This kind of thing should be outlawed. There was a law. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. It was made in 1953 or 4. It had 2 senator or 2 congressmen's name or congresswomen, I don't know. And it said nothing carcinogenic could be put into a food product. Well, that law was repealed during the 80s. So you see FD&C number red number 40 or FD&C number blue. All those colors, they're all carcinogenic. And not just the colors, all these long names, all these things. And the cosmetics industry, all kind of horrible things. European Union has higher standards. And the Bush administration spent lots of money trying to change the rules of the European Union's restrictions on what do they call those kind of products, like shampoos and soaps and things like that. Because, if those companies have stricter standards for safety, Americans who know about it, they're going to buy non-American, non-Johnson & Johnson, they're going to buy healthier things. We want to. By the way, I want to go back. Those nurse stories about those birth defect children. One nurse was a student nurse. She got lost in a state hospital. She wound up in a room, and there's this little baby with another brain attached to the back of the head. Okay, that baby died after 8 months. Never saw its parents, was in that room, and they told her, the mother and the father think the baby is dead. This is secret now, okay. So that means human rights abuse, because the parents think, the baby died. The baby's alive and alone without its meeting its own parents for 8 months. Okay, and then the other nurse story was something similar. Although she came in the room and there was a baby with no openings on the face, no nose opening, no eye, no mouth opening. It looked like baby, but just no openings, and it did not live very long. It was born, and they told her, this nurse, this baby, parents believe the baby died. And we're keeping it for study or something like that, and they were given some kind of what kind of excuse they told the parents to keep the baby, because usually people will take the baby and burn and ash, and have a funeral, but they told them some things where they could just keep the baby, and the parents went home without a body. So that maybe they did not show the baby to the mother, I don't know. anyway, I mean, things like that happen. And I told you, early they do ultrasound, and they advise mothers to cancel. And Japanese mothers, I don't know why, they usually have a miscarriage, like 2 or 3 before they finally have a baby. And I don't know whether it's a weaker or it's public transportation. Women don't drive there. It's too expensive to have a car and pay for a car, so they take the bus, they take the train. The subway station's a lot of stairs, and so if you can't travel, it's hard. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going off the subject again.
No. It's fine. And that was in Japan, you said?
Yes, in Japan, yes,
Okay.
but it's all over. And I don't know the U.S. situation now, but I'm sure with all the chemicals we have a lot of disabled people. It's going to get worse. You have to take back the country. We have to, and we can't let this ride. And if you see the pictures of the Iraqi children during the Gulf War embargo, after the Gulf War, they were embargoed. They couldn't get anything, even a medicine that had something that might be used for some, weapon, was banned. They didn't even have cameras. So this two Japanese photojournalists went to Iraq, and they were sending back to my little small group. I didn't organize it. It was a group of junior high school teachers, 3 high school teachers, 1 kindergarten teacher. They were public, but they were not union members. And they were teaching their students all the wars, the U.S. wars, a long list, all the people who died. And they were teaching them the truth about the Japanese war history, how there's so many old women never got married because there was no men to marry. And then they're teaching the truth. And so this group I was with, and these 2 photojournalists were sending us back pictures. That's how I got into this group. There was a photo exhibit of Iraqi children, and they had all these birth defect kids, and no openings on the face, no brain. The head end is here. And this baby, the mother looked at the baby and ran out of the hospital screaming, and the Japanese photojournalist just happened to be there, took pictures of the baby. It was alive for a few minutes and then died. And I saw that picture, and I said, "Take me to your leader. I will make speeches. I will deliver flyers, whatever is now. I got to do something." Oh, American people never saw these pictures. And late night on Japanese television, there was a show at 11 p.m. at night. It was called 11 p.m., and it's not there anymore. I missed that show, but my student said, "Nancy, there was a little boy. He's alive, he's an Iraqi boy. One eye is here, one eye is here. They're displaced. One eye is in the lower cheek, one eye is on the top of the forehead. There's no hair on the top, but he has a goatee. And this child, both eyes blink at the same time. I mean, they're all misplaced." And she was all upset, and that was her. She couldn't say anything else. She was so upset about that. She was crying too. Anyway, I don't think American people saw these things. And then in Japan, being in Japan, you see bad things. You hear about bad things about your own country, USA, that you don't hear in the U.S. Like I saw a U.S. Soldier in uniform. He's holding the hand of a little kid, white kid. Okay, this is white soldier. The kid's hand is coming out of the shoulder, like a Minamata, but it's not Minamata. It's a Gulf War veteran's child. So when they came home, they had sex. The wives complained that their vagina was on fire. They only knew this when they had wives get together and talk, and they would mention things like that. So I started learning about depleted uranium, because that's what was used for the first time in the Gulf War, 91. Bush the first. And then the penetrators are about the length of a cigarette box, and those things were found by women in Okinawa, in some tiny island in Okinawa, collecting metal for money for metal. And then they found those penetrators, and then they asked the American government, "Are you practicing depleted uranium on an island in Okinawa without our permission? Please go and clean it up." Okay, they cleaned up 15% of the penetrators they shot. So 85% of those is still in the soil, and it's very, very weak to water. So it'll go into the water. So the island next to it said, "We don't fish on this side, we'll fish on this side." But you cannot stop radiation like that. It goes... Anyway, depleted uranium, boom, it goes into minus something, 6 micron. So it's inhalable. So if you're around and it goes into your lung, goes into all the body fluids, and that's why the soldiers came home. And more soldiers died. 149 soldiers died in the Gulf War, but when they came back stateside, it was like up to 2,000 died. Some of them committed suicide. And these are Japanese school teachers teaching me in that group of anti-war activists. So we were teaching just what picture exhibit, and then they would put the picture exhibit at a big train station, and kids coming home from Saturday afternoon classes, they'd see it and they'd teach them. And then we make posters before a big event, and we tie it, and then after the event is finished, and we tried George W. Bush for murder of Iraqi people and Afghan people. We tried him 22 times, 23 times in different cities when I left. And I participated in 3 trials in Kyoto, Osaka, and in Kobe. And we tried him for murder, and we gave him a lawyer. An American lawyer. we gave him some kind of way, but mainly the journalists who went and took pictures, and they came back and they said, please do not tell anybody the name of my company. And then here are my slides, and then he would show us things from the war front. So I got to learn about U.S. history, the part that's not taught in school, by Japanese anti-war activists. And I'm glad of all my what happened, and labor is dwindling. Labor unions are minimizing in Japan as well as in the United States, and in Texas. Texas is the place for activists if you want to have an issue to work on, because we have right to hire, right to fire state here in Texas. This is really, really bad for labor here. And the other stations, we have 5 stations in Pacifica, they have less discrimination because they have workers' rights in their states. We're a, hire at will, employment at will state. The South, most of the southern states are like this. So this is the place. Plus, death penalty. Texas is the capital of death penalty in the world. And each execution represents $2.3 billion of public tax that we could use for something else. And if we keep them alive for 40 years, it's 800,000. 800,000 from minus, 2.3 billion minus 800,000, that's 1 point something billion. You can do something with, education, healthcare, protect the environment, alternative energy, get off of oil. We could do so much. So this is I've got so many issues now that I'm really into. It's really enjoyable for me, and I cannot expect everyone to do this, because people have to make a decision on their own, and otherwise, because one person said, he said, Nancy, you have nothing to lose. You can stand up for anything. You have nothing to lose. Well, that's freedom. I don't have to go home and cook for a husband. That's freedom. Well, anyway, there's a lot that an individual can do to change the history, and I want to tell that to you. That's all.
And I have just a couple of
Yes,
quick
yes.
detail questions, and then a couple of wrap-up questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
I was wondering, you say you were a nurse aide. Is that the same as a nurse, or is that different?
No,
okay.
nurse.
So I just wanted to clarify.
Ooh, nurse is, I don't know for U.S. In Japan, it's 3 years of training to get certified nurse, and if they do midwifing in the hospital, then, or it's not really midwifing, but it's like helps at delivery time, then they have to take a 4th year in Japan. In America, it may be, I don't know what the required training is. I forgot to ask that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you mentioned that you worked as a ballet instructor. Was that a paid job?
Well, sort of. I got free lessons for teaching. Okay. Yeah. So my teacher would go to Venice in the summer, so I would teach. Or she'd go to Jones Hall for a concert or something, then I would teach, yeah. She was very interesting person, yeah. Mm. She stood up for rights, because in her class there was one black student, and at the music hall. That was before Jones Hall was built, that music hall. And, nobody wanted that black child to show up on stage. And so she said, don't worry, don't worry. And so everybody was worried because they never had a black person on the stage, okay? So, and this is Deborah Allen. She's famous now. She was... anyway, she's half white, half black. Okay, but she looked black anyway. Deborah Allen. So my teacher just put a lot of powder on her face, and then the nannies of all these students. Okay, they're black. And some of the River Oaks people, they had kids in the school, and so they came to Tatiana and said, "We want to see the performance of our children." It's like their own children. They take care of them. Please, but we're not allowed to be in the audience. This is the 1960s, okay? And so she said she battled with the board and battled with the music hall to get the upper balcony, which was not going to be open, because it was considered too small of a performance, it wouldn't be needed. They let them open that for the blacks to sit. So, I mean, she did something really outrageous. I mean, I liked Tatiana very much, yeah. And she performed for the Third Army and Patton's group in World War II, and she got injured during that time. She hurt her leg. Anyway, she's doing something.
And then I guess just a couple of wrapping up kind of questions. Where is home for you?
Home? Oh. Well, right now, it's at house, my mother's house, and I think I was all ready to come back, assess things, pick up my mother and go back to Japan and work for women's rights over there. But now, there's so much I see, and I think I should stay in the belly of the beast, and that's Houston. That's where it is.
So, for you, what is it like to be a Japanese American woman in Texas?
I don't know about that unless I look in the mirror, and I don't have too much time to look at a mirror. I don't even think about that. And when I ran for KPFD board, I wasn't. There was a Chinese boy running saying he wanted more rights for Chinese, but he didn't win. And later on, he had a chance to come on as a runner-up, but he didn't want it. I didn't think like that, and everybody's expecting me to bring in all the Orientals, and I said, it's a personal decision, everybody. I would like to help the Asian community get more aware, and I would like the non-Asian community to be more aware of the Asians' concerns or what's. So I'm trying now to get some Asian programs on KPFD. It's very hard. Asians, I hate to say this, they're scaredy cats. They're scared, and they must have good reasons to be scared. I mean, in Japan, people are afraid of police. And I used to go to the police station all the time to complain about this or complain about that. And they'll say, "Oh, here she is again." I was not that afraid of them, but usual Japanese are afraid to break a rule. They've been taught that way from school. And about the Chinese, I don't know how they are now, but they seem to be very. I try to talk to the Vietnamese. It's really hard. I try to talk to the Chinese. Unless I have somebody who can speak English, it's really hard. They're scared, and they hang up. Like the Chinese newspaper I called, and I said, "Oh, I'd like to have some health issues, some about air quality, about amalgam fillings and that kind of thing." And they said, "Well, we usually use Chinese medicine, and we don't really need to know about Western." Well, the person who'd answered, and I said, "Well, how about political things? I wonder if our Chinese community or Oriental community is understanding what's happening, all the politics and how we're being taken advantage of. I really would like to know that. I cannot understand your radio shows or your newspaper, so I don't know if you're really aware of these points or not." And so I really don't know. So I talked to somebody from the Vietnamese community, found the leader, and he speaks English. And he seems to be a little bit aware, but I said, "Do you realize that the drawback with the Vietnamese community, they don't they stay clannish, isolated, and Chinese do too. And I said, the Japanese also, they all go to the same apartment complex to live, I said, they're scared, and at the same time, they make their own banker, their own insurance, their own, little community stores, so they deal with each other. And I think that's nice to do, but without that, they don't really know what's happening to the other, and the other community doesn't really know what's happening to them. So it's like isolation, and I don't like that. And our KPFT should have some one of every flavor. I wanted to get some. That's what I'm working on now. It's very hard, and there's politics in the place where it should not be. A lot of things. So if you know anybody that's interested in free expression of freedom of speech and through the media, and wants to get involved with KPFT, there's going to be an election this summer for new board members, and that would change. I'd like to get just activists to join, and we make KPFT a little bit more what it should be. It's not quite right at KPFT. I'm really not happy about this, but I'm not going to give up. And there's always, underwriting. We're not supposed to have underwriting, but they're starting to do underwriting from nonprofit groups. And all right, worst come worst, maybe do this, but go public. I mean, tell the listeners this is happening, and this is not happening yet. And when this gets on a library of then they'll find out. That's good, just takes a majority vote to get rid of the manager, and it would take pressure. You don't really have to target a person or a president or a manager. You have to get consensus and get people to band together and stand up for their rights. But when people are afraid to talk to you because they're afraid of losing their program that they volunteer for, then there's tyranny going on or something's wrong. And you need somebody who doesn't mind about the result. Like I like to go to court to fight for rights, and I'm not going to do it just because I know I can win or there's a chance to win. Because then, it's not as fun for one thing. You don't learn as much for one thing. And if we all thought like that, then nothing great would get accomplished, And we have to be more responsible for the future. That's really important. So I'm not, my home. My home is wherever there's a fight for justice. That's where I feel comfortable. That's where I feel at home.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, thank you.